us or call us at 457-9997. Activated Mornings on WEFM 99.9 is on now.
All right, so we are going to quickly head into another topic at this time, and we are talking on the anyways, we are asking the question, do parents recognize when they are bullies towards their own children? All right, so I know that for some parents it might be a touchy topic because our West Indian parents always think that they are correct, but parents, do you always think that you're correct?
No, I know as a parent I am not always correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I just hold myself accountable.
All right. All right, so we're asking the question, do parents recognize when they are bullies towards their own children? Now, I came across an interesting topic or interesting story yesterday from the Trinidad Guardian, right? And it's actually contained in the article. It wasn't even the subject of the article, right? But the person who was speaking, I'd have to go up to find the person name. So, all right. So anyhow, so the person was saying is that, but while teachers are asked to keep an eye out on youngsters, the traumatologists also focus on teachers who may be bullies as well. He said sometimes the system bullies them to take out their stress on the children, right? So it's in relation to teachers and children, etc. But he's saying that if we're talking the things, let's start the things proper, because sometimes if the system, no, that's not the right thing I'm reading. Hold on, let me go back down, right? He said, and while parents were not present, Benjamin, who's the person who was speaking, said that sometimes parents' unwillingness to keep up with the times causes their children to be bullied, right? So he says, stop creating scenarios for your children to get bullied. Comb the children's hair properly. Have the children dressed proper, he said, right? Now, so that was just part of what he said. But then it caused me to ask the question, do some parents recognize that sometimes the actions that they do or the actions that they don't do cause their children to be bullied in school? And sometimes some of the effects of the things that they endure can actually have a lasting effect on them, and not just with the interaction in school, but also with the interaction between the parent and the child, right? So this is bullying is a part of negative parenting, which could include neglect, abuse, or it may play a role in children being both the target and the perpetrator of bullying. So in contrast to positive parenting, such as showing warmth and affection, it may reduce the risk of a child becoming a bullying target, right? However, it is important to know that if a child's experiencing bullying, both them and their parents may or may not be at fault, all right? So they're saying that sometimes a parent's parenting style can influence the way in which their child is treated or might be targeted. So I was looking at the examples that he said, something as simple as combing your child hair properly, right? Letting them dress properly. And sometimes parents, they don't see it.
No, they don't. And I would include in that the names you give your child. Now, you have all right to name your child what you want to name your child, but some parents, man, in trying to join a piece of the mommy name and a piece of the daddy name, y'all come up with some ridiculous names that children get bullied for. Oh no, yours was done well. Roleza is a beautiful name. If you were bullied in school for being called Roleza, I know what's wrong with you. See, it's actually, but some parents, listen, listen, not all the time when you try and join up them names, you get something that is bully proof. I would say the child get bullied in school for having that kind of name. To answer the question, I don't think, let's talk about we parents them from time to time, they don't, most of them, I don't think, recognize when they're being a bully to their child. And sometimes I know that some of the old school ways have worked, they are working, but you have to also think about your child. So you may insist on giving your child 2 big plats to go to school. right? Because yes, nobody is supposed to laugh at anybody because of things like that. But then you have to understand the environment that the child is going into. And sometimes you have to consider it if you care about your child. So while you want to send them with the two big plaques because you figure, listen to me, you're not going to school too long with your hair, at the same time, you don't want them in school to be bullying your child, you know?
Yeah, and you talk about them two big flats. So my mother, my mother used to have this little put in my hair, this thing on the side right up. Down to my graduation picture from St. Mary's has me with that hairstyle. And my mother insisted when I was in secondary school, in high school. No, you're high school, you girl. You know your thing. In going to school with ribbons in my hair. Girl, I tell you. And that's the thing. It's like my mother did not recognize that, you know, these little things. So my wife is that she probably thought that, yes, it was okay. You know, you are a school girl, you are a school child, you're going to look cute, and this is how children are supposed to be looking to go to school. It was like a no. You know, there were even things like the way in which you would dress. So like, I remember even, and mommy morning, but I even remember there was one time, and I found the topic yesterday, I remember the situation where there was this, so we used to go to these summer programs, I remember there was a PSU program that we went to, and there's always like this graduation ceremony or whatever do you call it afterwards, at the end of the program, right? And I picked out my outfit. Oh boy. Because my mother had a way of wanting to, you know, tell us what to wear. And I picked out my outfit. I laid it down on the bed. I said, Mommy, this is what it is I'm going to wear. And my mother insisted that I wear something else. Dianna, I did not want to go to the them closing ceremony because I felt so embarrassed because I was already a teenager. You know, you have your little crushes by these little programs as well too, and to see me showing up in this suit, girl, it was like a sailor suit. Really? It was like this sailor suit, so you know the shoulder them cock off, and it have this it had this kind of trimming around it. And Dianna, I tell you, I was so embarrassed, and I was there like, why is it my mother making it so difficult for me to just be a young child, you know, a young lady? I think I should have already been a teenager at that time. Why was she making it so difficult? But, you know, when our parents are kind of set in their ways, you know, they don't see the results of these things. So when it is I went, you know, I just kind of sat. I hardly interacted with anybody at the closing ceremony because of the fact of, you know, it's like I knew how it is that I felt. I knew I wanted to go out wearing what it is I wanted. It wasn't anything inappropriate or whatever. But, you know, my mother just felt like she needed to have that upper hand. And she had the upper hand. What is I could do? I couldn't say nothing. You know, I couldn't say I ain't going to the closing ceremony. I couldn't say I ain't wearing what it is she put out. But, you know, it's these little things. And I think sometimes parents don't recognize it. You know, they just think that because they have gone through childhood and maybe they made it out in the way in which their parents raised them, that it is okay to pass that down to your child, not realizing that your child has to interact with other children. And do we want to necessarily make or put added pressure onto them during their childhood years? No, we shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be doing things to deliberately embarrass your child, you know?
And some parents actually do that. I don't know, they like it or something, like to just embarrass you in front of people. I think some of them just take delight in that.
I do agree with that. And, you know, you have to allow, I remember, and I always used to have to look at my niece and kind of smile. It's like, when she was being pulled up in public by me, she'd be like, Auntie, you don't have to be like that. We could talk about this afterwards. And I mean, the thing of it is that she had this space to be able to, she knew that she could say it, and I was not going to blow up at her in public or embarrass her in public, because to me, that wasn't necessary. It wasn't needed. It wasn't called for, you know? If she is feeling a particular way, she has the right to let me know how it is she feels. She feels. And do parents allow children to do that?
Not really, because in growing up, I could have challenged my mother like that. Even if you're saying something that is not rude, is you rude? You couldn't ask certain questions because you're rude and you're disrespectful and yada yada yada. I remember one time I was doing something. I told Tyler that he should not do it. We're not doing this. You're not supposed to do this. But then I was doing it. And then one day he said to me, "You tell me I mustn't do this, but you doing it." And I couldn't say anything. I didn't say anything. I just walked away. I just acknowledged the statement and I walked away. I couldn't do that to my mother. You probably would have never met me, man.
I know, right? I have a permanent mark on your cheek.
Yeah. Listen, Cremville, I want to see pics too.
No, when I tell Ali this suit was horrible, like I just did not. Boy, even I'm still traumatized from that incident. You see how easy it was for me to remember it? That's to tell you. But parents, you really do have to try to do better. All right, children are already going through enough. They're facing enough as it stands. And sometimes you think that your way of doing things is the correct way, when sometimes it's not. And what it is that I am so concerned with is that it may not just be something that's temporary in terms of a child not being happy in the moment, but it can have long-lasting effects, right? It can influence the type of relationship that you're going to have going forward. Again, would your child feel comfortable coming to tell you this and that based on something that you did, that you deliberately trying to embarrass them, that you're trying to let everybody know that you are the parent, that what you say goes. We have to be mindful of these things because it does have long-term implications, which is what some parents don't realize. All right?
Yep.
And Crampel, no, you are not seeing any pictures. I don't care. You can laugh till you're weak on that WhatsApp. You're not seeing any pictures.
Somebody else.
No, but it was.
Somebody said she didn't want you to get boyfriend too early.
Listen, it wasn't even about getting a boyfriend. I just needed to. You show who you are. Your personality comes out in the way that you dress, and it wasn't anything.
WEFM.